if you are using, say, your truck and you're using it almost exclusively for hauling drywall to job sites, your personal insurance is not going to cover that because they are not rated for commercial use. Right? There's different rating factors that the companies look at as far as exposure, and if you're hauling drywall back and forth between construction sites, there's a higher exposure for like a comprehensive claim because somebody backed the skid steer up into your driver's side door.
Welcome to the Roll Up and Roll Out podcast. Sit down with blue-collar business owners and inspired entrepreneurs to get the industry insights from the leaders that grow our local communities and learn how to scale your business. Regardless of GED, these people know how to GSD. Here is your host, Paul Childers. Let's get to work.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to our podcast, Roll Up and Roll Out. My name is Paul Childers, and today I'm excited to have David Alman on here. David is the owner of Clarity Insurance, and he kind of runs the gamut of insurance products for personal and business. And I'm going to let him kind of give himself an introduction here, as well as give us a quick background on why he decided to jump out and, buy into his own insurance agency. So thanks, David, and look forward to hearing kind of your story and your background.
Yeah, no, I appreciate being on here, Paul. It's always a pleasure to share information and get out there in front of other people as well. As far as my background, pretty humble beginnings. I mean, nothing real exciting. We grew up real blue collar. Mom was a nurse and, raised my brother and I basically on her own. So taught me a lot about finances very young, which between that and the desire to just help people and eventually help businesses led me into insurance.
Sure.
Yeah.
So obviously before you jumped into your own brokerage, I'm guessing, like, what other jobs did you have before this? And like, what was your official introduction into the insurance world and the industry?
Yeah, so I've run a whole gambit of jobs. I've done everything from like fast food cook, ice cream serving at Dairy Queen, to remodel, framing, roofing, like anything construction, to different sales positions, selling CNC equipment and selling knives with Cutco and whatever else. I mean, it's been, whereas a meat cutter for a little bit. Yeah.
Were you ever a salesperson if you didn't start out selling Cutco knives? I mean,
I don't think so. I mean, I think that's a rare mess. Absolutely. One of the other places I worked was for the company that makes no-name steaks. I worked in their warehouse for about 5 years. And that's when I started realizing I wanted to pursue more of a financially minded career. And I got into financial advising from that.
Okay.
So I started out as a financial advisor, did that for a couple years. My story is also marred with some heavy losses. So one of the things that spurred me to focus more on insurance was the murder of one of my best friends and his dad. So that was 3 weeks before I got married.
Sure.
And then the end of that year, there's some regulation that was talked about coming down on how investment accounts worked, and with just where my headspace was at, I was tired of dealing with the stock market stuff, and I just went insurance. I was passing out a bunch of home auto business referrals at the time, and so I figured I'd just work insurance and help people when they have bad things happen.
Sure.
And then from there, I was an agent, got into some operations management stuff, and here we are.
Running your own brokerage.
Yeah.
What do you feel is the real benefit of running your own insurance brokerage versus, let's say, working for a more established, larger syndicate, I guess you could call it?
Yeah, one of the big benefits I see is, you're the guy in charge. So you get to set the standard on how the policies are written. You get to set the standard on the processes, and I mean, it's your operation. So you really want to take care of it and take care of the clients and make sure that everything is top notch. You know? And ultimately, you're building your business. So in the long run, the better you do on the front side, taking care of the clients and prospecting and that whole arena, the better you do there, the better you're going to do on the tail end when you're looking at exiting the business, however that may look.
Sure. That makes sense. What has been your favorite part of being, not even just like your own agent, but being a insurance agent and helping people? Like what is it that gives you energy about what you do?
Knowing that the client is going to be taken care of when something bad happens, right? And even before anything, and hopefully nothing bad ever happens, like I would rather have all my clients call me and be, David, we just spent all that money with you and we never used our insurance. So I guess thanks for our friendship. But obviously that statistically won't be the case. So knowing that they're going to be taken care of when they need a financial support there, whether it's with their business, their home, life insurance, disability insurance, whatever it may be, that they have not only the product in place working that way, but then they have somebody they can call that knows how to walk them through that process.
Sure. Well, that makes sense. Has there been a particular like business or incident that you've been a part of working with them to kind of solve the problem that they had that really stands out in your mind as like, man, that was like super complicated. And after you help resolve it, you were able to go to like that business owner and be like, remember when we first started talking and I told you this is the benefits of working with a broker? Like you would have had no help had you been just with a specific provider. And this is why it's worth paying to go through someone like myself.
Well, one of the biggest benefits on the front side of that is oftentimes they're getting better coverage without paying more. So that usually makes that front side conversation a lot easier. But as far as a complicated or challenging situation, I would say the one that really stands out the most to me is a bond that I did with, and they're one of my favorite clients. I absolutely love working with them. The son has a military background in the Marine Corps, so there's some camaraderie there because I'm Marine Corps family. But yeah, so anyhow, without getting too far off track there, we got a bond in place because this was the biggest job they ever had, and working for redoing the flooring on an Air Force base in the area they live. Everything had been going well until their hiring contractor started making all these changes, and they weren't holding to the agreements of the contract. And thankfully, my client had the foresight to document a lot of this, but they would also come back to me and say, hey, what do we need to be doing here? Do we have to file a claim for this? How does this look, legally as far as insurance goes? And obviously there was some limitation on what advice I could give because I'm not an attorney.
Yeah.
I don't know legalese. I know insurance and bonding, and I have people that I can contact to help support the information that I have. But I've been helping walk them through that process. And now they're off that job. They have legal stuff involved to smooth everything out. And it sounds like they're going to get off of the job without any blowback on them because the hiring contractor was negligent in what they were doing.
Sure.
But what I really like about that is they realized that they should also include their insurance and bonding agent because of the complications that were coming up. So just being able to be there as an advisor.
Sure. Being able to hedge off a problem before it became a problem.
Yeah.
I think that's something that, not not enough people really think about, right? Like, I run into it too in just the financial world that I'm in. Well, everything is going fine, so it's just going to continue to go fine. So why should I change the way I do things, right? Like, in a lot of cases, you have to do stuff to hedge against when stuff goes wrong, especially when shit goes wrong. You need to be able to mitigate and even potentially like completely protect yourself from that by having the proper licenses, insurance, bonds, like just all that stuff in place as a business. And I feel like not enough people take that stuff as seriously as they should, or they put it down the priority list of like things that they need to check their boxes when they're bidding on, bigger jobs and stuff. So, off of that, what are some of the most common like mistakes that you see business owners making when it comes to insurance or bonding and that kind of stuff?
And there's a couple of them that come to mind. One of them, especially when they're getting into bigger contracts, is not looking at the contract requirements for the bond or the insurance policies. Specifically, there was one that I worked on, and I got it from another agency because they weren't able to fulfill contractual requirements, and this company had already been working on this job for 6 months, and the hiring contractor was holding back pay because they were very strict on that policy language needing to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to work with them, get the correct policy language. Now they got paid, and I have a new best friend.
Sure.
I just got them 6 months of pay.
Hey, I found that people get really friendly with you when you save them or make them additional money. Like, that's a quick tip for anybody out there listening. If you don't have any friends, get into a field that will help you save people money or make them money, and you'll have a whole lot of friends. I will constitute this with saying that you still have to have a very friendly demeanor and be somebody that they can communicate and talk to, because if you're just a turd, you're still not going to get much people to be friends with you, right? Like, you got to have a personality when you work in some of these industries.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one thing that I see is that they don't look at what the policy language or contract requirements are because they're excited about getting that job. They see what that means to their revenue, which is great. I understand that completely. We have all done that as a business owner.
That's a fact.
Anybody that's running a business that hasn't done that is lying to you, or they just got into business.
Yeah.
Like they just printed their LLC.
They haven't been in it long enough to not make that mistake.
Yep. So that's the first one. The other one is mixing the use of their vehicles. So if you are using, say, your truck and you're using it almost exclusively for hauling drywall to job sites,
Mm-hmm.
your personal insurance is not going to cover that because they are not rated for commercial use. Right? There's different rating factors that the companies look at as far as exposure, and if you're hauling drywall back and forth between construction sites, there's a higher exposure for like a comprehensive claim because somebody backed the skid steer up into your driver's side door.
Yep.
Right.
So
just driving. Go ahead.
But like, just out of curiosity on that one, like, what is that threshold on that? Because I get a lot of people that ask me like, hey, I've got my personal vehicle. Can I finance it in the business? And I always tell them, your kind of rule of thumb is if you're going to be spending more than 50% of the time in your vehicle for work, then yes, you probably can do it in your business. It may still not make sense, but if you're going to be using it for work over 50% of the time, or if you have any kind of branding on it, then you should absolutely have that finance in the name of the company, or by the company, right? So I assume that's probably similar with insurance. Like these guys that are driving around with personal vehicles that are doing a lot of job site stuff, especially if they've got their name on it, need to have commercial insurance on that truck.
Yes. And so there's a couple points that I would point out there. If you have the branding, 100%, you're going to need to be looking at typically commercial policies. There's like 2 carriers I can think of off the top of my head that may look at that as just a personal vehicle with, depending on what the job is though, right? It's a personal vehicle with just like a business card on it, right? If you're a mortgage officer, you could probably get away with that more than you could a construction guy,
Right.
right? But the other thing is, how is the vehicle titled? The vehicle is titled in the business name. You need to have business insurance on it. That's just how that is. As far as the percentage, to directly answer your question, I would definitely say if it's more than you're driving to and from work, if you're using it for work, then you need to have that insured as a commercial vehicle instead of a personal, right? So if you're just the guy that's driving to the job site and home from the job site, that's fine. That's personal use. But if you're the business owner that's driving to and from the job site, but you're also running and getting materials, you're picking up your guys, whatever variations. Yep. You should really look at having commercial coverage because there's a gap there on the personal policy. They don't cover commercial use.
Sure. So if you're on the job site and something happens and whatever, like chances are in that situation, you're probably ain't going to be covered for it. So then you're going to be out of pocket for whatever that expense is. Okay, that makes sense. So there are definitely some parallels, I think, in the insurance world to, the finance world too, with risk mitigation. And that's a pretty good rule of thumb is like, if you're pulling trailers and you got any kind of branding on your truck, like it needs to be in your business name, financed in your business name, or paid or titled in your business name, right? If you don't have any branding, but you're still pulling all of your trailers around and you're active at all the job sites and you're doing this and that, and maybe you just are the guy that runs and oversees the crews, but you're still picking up a bunch of stuff from Home Depot, concrete bags, wood, whatever. Like that may seem like just personal time, but you're still technically on the clock, whether you own the business or not. So you need to protect yourself like you're on the job site. That's good to know.
Yeah, and if you're an employee, so you're working for the contractor, helping frame the house or whatever, and they have you take your personal vehicle to do something, and you're on the clock, there could be a coverage gap there from your personal policy.
So good to know. Right? Because I know there are probably a lot of companies out there that
I've done it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I did. Come on now. Like used to do that all the time, with different things and what have you. And I wouldn't even think about it when I was working in landscaping, right? It's like, I need to go do something. So I'm just going to jump in the car and go, right?
Yep. Try to grab the commercial truck.
Yeah. Sometimes we had the trucks there to, take a run with, but not always. But yeah, it's just knowing, it's really just knowing what potential risks are out there and how to protect yourself from those risks is really at the end of the day what it is, right? So, so I totally understand that piece of it. So what sets you apart as a business owner than like everybody else? Like if I were going to go and shop brokerages, like why would I go to Clarity Insurance with David Alman?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons there is while I may not be very gray haired yet, I have a lot of life experience with this stuff. Whether it comes to helping a business owner walk through a claim, helping a homeowner walk through a claim, dealing with somebody, life insurance claim, whatever that may be, like I have gone through this stuff as a consumer too. So that brings a certain level of experience, I think. The other side of it is I'm looking at more than just the immediate. We'll get the business together, get all your policies lined up the way they need to be, make sure all the financials are there. But what else do you have going on? Right? I'm not just the insurance agent. I really try to be more of an advisor, right? So what else do you have in your business where I could provide a resource? And oftentimes I don't even get paid for those. It's just, this is something that I know can help you. Let's see how we can use it.
Yeah. Okay. And that makes sense, right? Like, because I think what happens a lot of times, and this is, I'm not speaking badly of anybody, even though I could, I won't name agencies either, but like for my parents' instance, like they went to one of the big box, call them a box store insurance provider. And when my dad passed away and my brother and I were going through stuff, like we saw that they had just a bunch of like super unnecessary items stacked on top of their like home and car insurance that as we were looking at them, we are like, well, what the heck? Like, what does this do? And what is this for? And here it was just that insurance provider just tacking stuff on top. And in my opinion, abusing the relationship that he had with my parents by talking him into this stuff that really was costing him, probably close to $500 or $600 a month extra than what they should have been paying. Right. So like,
Wow.
It's like, there's probably a lot of that happens out there that, people think that everybody's got their best intentions in mind and they don't, right? So like, what are some, suggestions or what's some advice, maybe is a better word for it, that you would give somebody who's just starting their search for insurance on like what to look for, how to avoid getting into like one of those situations where it's just in the finance and lending world, we call it a lending trap, right? Like, where it's real predatory situation and there's not really any way out. So you just keep getting abused by the same company over and over and over again. I would imagine that probably happens in the insurance world. So like, what is some advice that you would give to somebody that's going to go look for a provider and like how to sort through that BS?
There's a lot to that question when it comes to insurance because, if we're just looking at the commercial side, best thing to do is if you're just starting a business, have a mentor, somebody that understands at least a surface level of what's going on and can pick up on somebody's bullshit if that's just all they're spewing, or develop a relationship. And if you don't have a mentor, develop a relationship with a few insurance people, listen to what they're saying, ask them questions, ask them advice, find someone you can trust, but you have also potentially verified to some degree as best as you can through Google or something. You have some way of verifying what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, it does come down to like, do I feel I can trust you? Do I feel like you're professional? Do you have a good reputation? And are you advising me versus are you taking an order? Because every insurance agent has to have a license. In the state of Minnesota and nationwide, have to have a license to sell that product. So they are also held to professional standards. And if they aren't, in my opinion, if they aren't giving you professional advice and they're just letting you tell them what coverages you want and need without explaining what it is, then they're just an order taker. You want to move away from that.
It's like, in essence, right, that's almost like letting your toddler go to a grocery store and pick out what they want for supper or what they want to eat for snacks, right? Like, if we didn't give any kind of guidance to them, they would literally kill themselves.
Yeah, how many gummy worms can I eat at one time?
You have a toddler in your house, or if you've got a baby that's just going into the toddler stage, as a parent who now has both kids out of that era, 90% of your time as a parent is going to be spent trying to prevent them from killing themselves. They're like little suicidal machines, just they're not intentional about it, right? So don't give them leeway to allow them to just continue to go down their just self-destructive paths because they will, right? So like to your point, like same thing with a new business owner, right? Like new business owners, right? In the regards of business, we're a lot like toddlers, and it's very easy for us to get misled and misguided by people that maybe don't have our best intentions in mind because we just don't know what we don't know. And when you have a professional title, right? CPA, lawyer, CFO, insurance broker, lending broker, people tend to take you at face value. And really what I tell people is you shouldn't take us at face value ever. You should actually ask a lot of questions. You should talk to a bunch of other people as well. I always encourage, anyone that's working with me to go chat with a couple different lenders, right? Go chat with a couple different, like you're going to find people that match your source. Here's what you need to be aware of. Here's what you need to ask. And then you can come back and we'll talk. I would imagine that's very similar in your field as well.
It is. And mainly I do have to be a little careful in saying, yeah, go talk to another agent, right? Because if another agent puts together the same type of package that I was going to put together, I might just give it away in the business.
I get that.
Or another common thing is, go talk to another agent and they don't put on maybe this little feature that you really need in this type of business and they didn't know about, but it saves you $500 a year. It's like, all right, well, you're going there now because it's cheaper, but you don't know why it's cheaper and they didn't say why.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do have to be a little careful with that.
Yeah, I get you. I understand.
Yeah.
It's like when I was in automotive, right? Like you'd get people that would go and, oh, well, I got a quote on this truck and it's, $5,200 cheaper than yours. Why? Why are you guys so much more expensive? And then like you look at it and you're like, well, it's not even the same truck. It's missing like 3 major packages. Like you told me that you wanted the comfort and convenience package, the moonroof and the Bose. Like this truck is just doesn't have any of those things. Like, so of course it's going to be cheaper.
You said you wanted all 4 wheels. That one has 2.
Yeah, right. That one's only got, that's only half a truck. What are you doing here? Right. So it's funny. It is funny because it is human tendency to go, oh, well, I'm getting a better deal here. But then are you? Mm-hmm. Like, just because something's cheaper, is it always a better deal for the business owner? Because I can tell you from experience, a lot of times things that are cheaper up front, when you actually need it, end up costing you thousands of additional money out of pocket because you didn't have the right stuff applied. So you're exactly right with that. And I think that's a huge, separator for you and the services you provide because of your experience, especially your experience working in these industries with the blue collar guys, right? Because blue collar business owners really do just have like a get shit done mentality. And sometimes that mentality is just like,
it's almost detrimental sometimes.
Yeah. Right. Because it's in my path. It needs to be taken care of now. I'm going to do the path of least resistance. I don't care, about the future. I just need to get it done now so I can do this thing and this thing. Right. And then when the future comes and they need it, they're like, did an insurance agent rip me off? And it's like, well, no, not necessarily.
Yep. That's exactly it, man.
No, man. Any other advice that you have for any business owners that are out there right now that are maybe thinking about, I need to change my insurance or I need to update my insurance? Like, what is your advice on that?
Be prepared, because if you're looking at changing that, you're going to have to answer a handful of questions. But some of the best stuff you can do to prepare for that is get a copy of your current policy and have a copy of what's called loss runs. And it just shows any claims that you have had with the business in the last 3 to 5 years.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Good stuff, man. If somebody's looking for insurance, just real quick, what states are you available to provide in? Because all of our listeners are going to be across the U.S., right? And what is the best way for them to reach out and get a hold of you if they're interested in getting a quote?
Yeah, my state availability, I can rapidly increase depending on basically, I'm really easy to get into in the Midwest. But right now, I'm currently licensed in Minnesota, Wisconsin, North Dakota, Texas, Arizona, and Colorado, I believe I just picked up.
Fair.
So there's a handful of them. Best way to get a hold of me, can find my Facebook business page, Clarity Insurance. It's on there. You'll see my hairy face, and I'll be wearing a vest.
Very distinguished gentleman.
Yeah, yep. Try and look like it at least. Or my website, clarityinsuranceteam.com.
Awesome, man. Hey, I appreciate you coming on to the show, joining me, providing some good, valuable information, right? Like, this is really a bigger project that I think I have in my head. I'm not yet sure what exactly that's going to be, but I think it's the beginning of something that could be really cool. So, as much information as we could provide for business owners that are in this field, like, it's such an important thing, and it's a really important aspect of your business. So do not overlook the importance of your insurance policies and leave yourself exposed to something that could be completely catastrophic to your business, personally and financially. So thanks, David, for being on the show. This is another episode of Roll Up and Roll Out. I appreciate you guys all listening. Have a great rest of your day.